So I noticed a lot of you in the comments of that big Assassin's Creed Syndicate review I made a couple weeks ago were wondering why I didn't touch on the World War I missions in Syndicate. And that's simply because I felt these missions deserved their own video, because in a lot of ways, it kind of feels like a mini DLC. There's quite a lot of content in what's considered a side quest, and those who chose to skip it while playing Syndicate, I think are really missing out. Now obviously the best part of these missions and what makes it stand out so much is the setting. I've been saying ever since I started my channel basically that World War I is one of my most requested time periods for an AC game, right up there with feudal Japan, and let's be real, this is probably the closest we'll ever get to that. Who knows, maybe someday in the future we'll finally get our World War I game, but I doubt that's happening anytime soon. But this little sequence takes a chunk of Syndicate's world and essentially completely overhauls and redesigns it to fit the World War I aesthetic, and my goodness, it looks awesome. The assassin robes look incredible, the soldier uniforms, the spotlights, the planes, the zeppelins, the sirens. It does a really good job of immersing you in this time period while still maintaining the look and feel of Syndicate. It translates over shockingly well, and I think this proves right here that an Assassin's Creed game could work in a World War I setting. Granted, the soldiers don't really use guns at all, but you can suspend your disbelief knowing this is an AC game, and this is all just extra content from the main game. In an actual World War I AC game, I feel like you could still make it work even with modern weaponry. And of course, in these missions, you play as Lydia Fry, Jacob's granddaughter, who is quite evidently also an assassin, as she works with Winston Churchill to stop German forces. There's not a ton of cutscenes to these missions, or much story, but it was all just a fun backdrop and excuse to have Assassin's Creed in a World War I setting, so I'm not complaining. Lydia was cool in what little time is spent with her, and I wouldn't have even minded a game following her, or perhaps they could have made a full DLC for this. That would have been great. I don't know why they didn't do that, but oh well. And then there's the modern day component with Juno, which was actually very intriguing, but you know, for whatever reason, they decided to pay off that whole storyline in a comic, so a lot of the potential for that story ended up going to waste. Still though, I thought it was neat to learn a bit more about Juno and some more context around what happened with the Izu. Desmond's even referred to a couple times, which is always exciting. All in all, there's about an hour worth of content here, which considering this is just side content is actually incredible. Again, I really think they had the makings and potential for a really great DLC here. The missions are pretty simple, similar to the main game and even the Jack the Ripper DLC. It has a sort of open mission structure that allows you to complete the different tasks in what order you see fit. There's the spy hunt where you must track down a spy and eliminate them, similar to the main game's Templar hunts. There are the stock houses where you need to steal documents and destroy military equipment, and there's income missions where you can use an AA gun to shoot down invading planes, which reminds me a lot of that World War II mission from Unity. There's not any crazy amount of depth and variety to the missions, but they're fun, and with this World War I reskin, it almost feels like a new game. It would have been cool if there were some new tools and weapons you could use, maybe even new animations to better fit the time period, but considering the limited amount of resources and assets this probably got in development, that was likely just not possible. I'm sure if it was a full-fledged DLC, we could have seen some new additions like that though. But again, for what this is, side content for Syndicate's base game, it is so good. And this really just made me even more hopeful that we'll get an entire game like this at some point. It just feels like too good of an opportunity to let it go to waste. And this right here is the definitive proof that it could work. Regardless though, I really enjoyed these missions. It's also just such a nice breath of fresh air from Syndicate's base game, and I think it's really cool that Quebec decided to have missions like this. It's not the kind of thing you see in many AC games, so credit where credit is due. If you've never played these missions before, I highly recommend you do so. Obviously, it's free within Syndicate's base game, and it's only about an hour long, and it's more than worth it in my opinion. But for those who have played it, I'm curious what you think about it, and do you hope Assassin's Creed will one day have an entire game during World War I? It's definitely been one of the more requested time periods for an Assassin's Creed game, and there's so many potential settings you could go to. It just seems too good to not explore someday. But until that day, Syndicate is as close to providing that experience as we'll get. As always, if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you left a like and considered subscribing to the channel if you're new. Special thank you to my members for supporting me, it really means a lot. And other than that, thanks for watching, and have a great rest of your day, Assassins.